I bought this EFcut C30 and I just want to go through a few gotchas during the assembly. It's fairly simple, so I didn't want to do an entire assembly video, but the instruction comes into this pretty simple booklet with only 8 steps. One of the gotchas is step number 1 and step number 3. So in step number 1 and step number 3, you're supposed to be using screw R1 in step 1 and then screw R3 in step 3. However, what I found was that actually the screw R1 was really for step 1 and the screw R3 was, the bolts in R3 are meant for step 1 and then bolts in R1 are meant for step 3. So that was a mistake on the labeling side, or maybe they have changed their installation method or the way they package the screws. I'm not sure, but I got this thing together. The first step was to put this together, and that was using R3 screws in this list. And the second step was to put the wheels and this axle together using a cotter pin. And then after that, the step number 3 was to put this frame onto the body, the black frame that you see here with 3 screws. And that was R1 bolts. So the R1 bolts were used for step 3. And then R3 bolts were used to put this into this first step into step 1. The next thing I did was to add the chute. And then the next step was to put this bottom chute on, no problem here. The only caveat was these 2 screws comes in 2R packages. So even though this is step number 5 right here, the screws comes in 2 steps, and see, there's 2 step 5 here. Step 5 calls for R5, R6. So that I was confused for that for a little while because I thought maybe R5 was for step 5. It was actually R5, R6 was for step 5. The next thing was to put this top chute onto the bottom chute. That wasn't too bad. The hard part was to put this handle onto this thing because it doesn't quite line up and the space is tight. It could be a better design, but you know, it's a one-time deal, so it was okay. A little bit of struggle, but overall, it went on okay. So that's the assembly part. I have not put any gas into it. I'm about to. I have a gallon of gas right there. Let me put some gas in, unlock this guy, and then give it a go. Also, I forgot to mention that I went ahead and put in almost half a quart of oil, and I checked it. And when you check the oil, you don't screw it in. You just put the dipstick in and pull it back out and read. We're about a little bit over halfway full without the engine started, but we should be pretty safe. They recommended 1540 or 1040, I guess. I'm using the 040 and I only had synthetic on hand, but this should supersede what they recommend, which is a 1540. So as per instruction, I didn't screw the dipstick in to measure the oil, and I had about a little bit less than half a quart, and look at the oil level, it's right there. So it's like 3/4 of the ways up, and I think that's a good place to let it be, basically. Here's what they recommend for 1540. You see 1540 is just right over the 90 degrees mark Fahrenheit. Right now, we're probably sitting right at 92 to 94 degrees ambient temperature. So we're right at the tip of that 1540, or currently I'm using the 040, which is, we'll extend it further this way, but I need more range up this way. So next time we can try use like a 1050 or something like that, or a 2050 would probably work better for us here in Central Texas. Okay, I added about a pint of gas, maybe a little less than a pint, not a whole bunch of gas. we're gonna go ahead and follow the start the engine instructions. And it says here to push the fuel cock to on. We're gonna go ahead and do that. Fuel cock to on. Okay. And then push the choke lever to close. If the engine is hot, closing the choke is unnecessary. So we're gonna go to the choke is on. So the button on the choke is off this way and on this way. So we're gonna have the choke on. So that's on. We're gonna do an engine switch here. To on. So the engine switch is right here, like that, turn it on. Start the engine as follow. Hand operated kickstarter, push the engine to the on switch, pull slightly on the starting rope handle up until you feel the anti-action, then make a rapid pull. Okay. It says set the throttle lever to proper position to ensure engine runs at required velocity. And I think this is the throttle lever. It has a rabbit on this side and it has a turtle on this side. So this is the slowest it's gonna be. This is the fastest it's gonna be. We're gonna leave it on the turtle since we have the choke on and see what happens. So the instruction said to pull on the wire until you feel traction and then pull on it rapidly. So I don't believe there's any kind of what is it called? A primer. I don't see a primer button anywhere. So it doesn't look like there is one. So let's give it a shot here. So I have my earplugs in. So we're gonna pull it until there's the traction. See what happens. First pull. That's amazing. We're gonna let it warm up a little bit and see what happens. Pause here and warm up, and then I'm going to take out the choke. I tried to push the choke all the way back and startles a little bit, so we're going to let it warm up just a little bit longer. So as it turns out, it runs much better with the choke on this way. The label says on this way, off that way on the choke, and it runs without a lot of smoke. If it's turned on, which is opposite of what I think what a choke should be. So right now I have it on the on position. And then now I'm going to throttle back and forth. Right there is choke all the way on, no smoke, it runs really nice. And that's where we start shredding and then we turn it back down, just let it idle. So I switched the motor off. Shut off the gas. So here it is, the motor switched off, the gas is switched off, or the petcock is switched off. The throttle is on its lowest settings, and here's the choke. Currently, it's on the on position, which is where it runs the smoothest, which is, I think it's where it's on the off. And on my motorcycle, that would mean choke off, but on this machine, it's on, so it's weird. I need to make a little label to remind myself that the choke is opposite of what I think it is. To start it, this thing needs to be all the way there to the off position so that it gets enriched. So that's the only other gotchas for me. The choke on and off sticker is incorrect. Do a quick update. What I did to fix this problem with calling this an off, and then that's an on choke, off choke. I took a razor blade and I cut this sticker in half. This is one sticker, so I couldn't just flip this without changing this too. So I took a razor blade, I cut this sticker in half, I peeled off the top half and I flipped it. Now it says off on this side and on this side, which is, I believe, is correct. When the motor is cold, you want it here so that the mixture is enriched. And then when it's warm, you want it here so that it doesn't spew out a bunch of smoke and runs rough. So that's it for the update. We'll see you at the mulching video.